Hi everyone, this is Peter from the Mindful Share Trader blog, and welcome to my 8th video in this chart reading series. And today I'm going to share with you how to identify signs of strength on a stock market chart. And in this video I'll be looking at the selling climax and what a test is. Okay, so firstly let's take a few moments to look at what we mean when we say we're seeing strength coming into the market. What is this strength thing that I keep talking about? Well, this refers to buying or potential buying. It's something that's not often very obvious if you don't know what you're looking for on the chart. What can look like selling can be in fact hidden buying and vice versa. Now the reason we want to be able to identify this strength coming into the market is so that we can get an idea of where that hidden buying is taking place. If you can learn to see that on a chart, then you have a good chance of being on the right side of the trade. You can also use it to build up a picture of the market and understand its structure as well. I guess you're also wondering why this buying has to be hidden. Well, what you have to understand is that if you're the smart money and you want to buy a lot of cheap stock or something, the last thing you're going to do is tell everybody else about it. If you do that, the price of the stock's going to rise because of the increased demand for it. And as we know, the professionals do not want to buy into rising prices. So how do we identify this potential buying? Well, the answer is volume. We look for high volume events that indicate preliminary potential buying. Now, in order to do this, you have to have an understanding of the relationship between the volume, the spread of the bar, and where it closes. And if you haven't already, I'd recommend watching my beginner's guide video to price action and volume. And I've put the link up to that in the top right corner of the screen. Okay, so let's take a look at a chart and look at one of the easiest to spot signs of strength coming in. So I've got our chart here. I'm going to look at the selling climax. So we can clearly see our selling climax sitting right here, above this massive increase in volume. Now it's easy to see this in hindsight, but of course at the time we wouldn't have known. High volume like this, even though it will usually have a short-term effect on price, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a turning point. And indeed, as we can see, price did continue to head down a bit further. Usually a drop like this from up here has a lot of momentum, and price can take a while to slow and turn. It's rather like jamming the brakes on a speeding train, if you want to kind of look at that analogy. Now, you wouldn't just jump in on a bar like this on this time frame. It has to be tested first because we don't know if all the supply has been exhausted, and the price could keep on moving down. And I'll explain what a test is shortly. So let's firstly define a selling climax. It's identified by being a very high volume widespread bar, or it can be a very narrow bar, usually closing higher, but not always, and they usually occur on bad news. They show the actions of the weak holders who, having ridden the price all the way down and hanging on in hope, finally capitulate and sell. The professionals then step in and they buy at cheaper prices. If the bar is very narrow, it indicates buyers rushing in to snap up the stock, and so the buying gets capped into a narrow range. It doesn't get any time to move down further and become a wider bar. In VSA or volume spread analysis terms, this is known as bag holding. It's called this because it's like someone's holding out a bag, catching all the shares as they get sold. We usually see this on ultra high volume, and again, some bad news accompanying it. As an example, to show what I mean, this narrow spread here, bar here, would be a good example of this if the volume was high like this. So if you had this kind of bar and this kind of volume, that would be considered bag holding. This down here, though, is really just a small selling climax and a sign of strength coming in. But you note here that also that this bullish volume is spread over two bars, and we see that quite frequently too. Okay, so this leads us into what a test is and why they occur and how they can benefit your trading. And a test is basically what it says. It's the professional money testing to see if there's any supply present before they mark the price up to start a run. They always need to test for supply so they don't get caught absorbing a lot of selling as they mark the price up. And they do this by marking the price back down into an area of previous potential supply, which is shown by this high volume. This testing then encourages any weak holders who are left to sell, and of course if the volume on the test is light, it means that there's no supply left, and of course the prices will then rise from there. If you see a low volume test back into an area of previous supply, that's a great place to go long, but it does pay to wait for confirmation on the next bar because there are also a lot of failed tests. So let's look at the chart and we'll see where this testing occurs. Okay, so if we have a look here on the chart, we've got this high volume event here. Like we said, we've got high volume over 2 bars there, and then pushed up again here on pretty high volume. You can see here the price pulled back. Now if we zoom in on this bar here, we can see this very narrow bar here on very, very low volume. That's a test. So they're testing to see if there's any supply left in this bar here. And having found none with this low volume, the price then proceeds to move up. And remember what I said about confirmation. You need the confirmation on this next bar to be closing higher than this bar. So your buy-in point would be here in this case, and then you would get the rest of this run up here. And I'll just zoom out a little because there's probably a few more tests on here as well. You can see here that the price came back down here to test this support line here. Again, probably to test this support line and the volume in this bar here. And the volume here on this, even though it wasn't ultra low, was still lower than the volume in here. So we would classify that as a test. And that took a few bars to then break up above. And we actually have a test here, a test in a rising market where the price is moving up and it's actually come down short term, very, very low volume, and the next day, bang, up it goes. We've got another test here, testing back into this area here. Again, very low volume, confirmed the next day, buy in, off you go. So that's basically what a test is. I'd recommend you get some charts out and have a look through them and practice trying to identify them. Okay, well that's it for this video. I hope I've managed to share some important stuff with you today and it's been easy to understand. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so feel free to let me know how I'm doing in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking the big yellow button. And of course, sign up to my newsletter as well, either here or at mindfulsharetrader.com. You'll get notifications of my content as I put it up. Okay, well thanks for watching, and until next time, bye for now.